I'd consider myself a pretty decent Smash player. Despite my underwhelming attendance in recent times, I'd say I can hold my own in a competitive setting and have even accomplished some amazing things in my time. Wait, what do you mean I'm eligible for an amateur's bracket? Well, I'll just have to win it then to prove to the world that I'm not an amateur. Yeah, I like that idea. This is Sandbag Circuit, the older sibling of the beginner's bracket Sandbag Series. The key difference being the maximum win rate being 45% in Sandbag Series and 60% in Sandbag Circuit. And if we look at my win rate, now I'm no mathematician, but I did pay enough attention in fifth grade to know what this sign means. It means a less than or equal to, which means I'm also equal to an amateur. This is unacceptable. I must win this for reasons beyond comprehension. So I entered this one in particular, which was Sandbag Circuit 32. It had 30 entrants, and I went into it as seed 2. I'm the literal highest win rate allowed to enter. How am I seed 2? Well, it turns out someone else had the same idea as me to enter this bracket with a 60% win rate. So my first idea was that now I feel less special and sad, and now I want to crawl in a hole and eat pine cones. But my second idea after that was that now I have to beat this guy to win the tournament, to earn my right of not being an amateur. But I would have to wait till main bracket for that as we were in different pools. And on the topic of pools, the pools in this bracket work just a bit differently than a typical bracket. These are Swiss pools, meaning that you're in a pool with an indeterminate number of other players. Each player plays 5 sets versus other people in their pool, and in this bracket, the top 6 from each pool advance into the gold bracket, which is where I want to be, and everyone else gets banished to the silver bracket, never to be seen again. Anyways, this is how my pools went. My first round in pools was versus Poem, a Roy player. As the first seed in my pool, I was supposed to win this set quite handily, and despite a strong opening stock with a very clean combo into edgeguard, I could feel my rust starting to show in my gameplay. I was making loads of stupid mistakes and was overall mashing way more than I should. So with a strong opening stock and a donated second stock, I did quickly take game 1 with minimal issues. Game 2 started off more even, but a jump read back air gave me the first stock, and I managed to get 90% of extra credit before dying to a side B. And after some incredibly skillful gameplay, I took game 2 convincingly. GG's to Poem. My second round was versus Micah Jones, a Pikachu player. And after how I played last set in the start of this game, I started to have my doubts that I would actually be able to take the whole thing. But after some back and forth, I got a back throw for the first stock and dealing massive amounts of damage on the second stock before finally going down to a forward air. Despite their best efforts and a pretty nutty offstage interaction, the deficit was too great to overcome and I take game 1. Game 2 started off incredibly in my favor, dominating the first stock with barely taking any damage. This trend only continued in the second stock after they dropped the ball during my upbeat and died at 70%. When I finished off the game with this funny combo on a double mistech. GG's to Micah Jones. My round 3 is versus Whittles. They're a... Oh, I guess they weren't here. So, what do I do now? I guess I'll just cut to my fourth round now. My round 4 was versus Boom, who went Dr. Mario. It was very apparent that I hadn't practiced this matchup in a very long time, as I was dropping edge guards way too much for it being Doc. But I managed to take stock 1 with a forward smash, which was absolutely not a misinput back air. Despite overall poor play in my opinion, game 1 was won convincingly with a pretty nice frame trap to end it. Let's see if next game I can actually hit my edge guards. Game 2 started off similar to Game 1, maybe even a bit better as I was actually hitting my punishes and even killed them for an aggressive downbeat. But the game quickly devolved into a back and forth game, though I was always just a bit ahead, until the last stock when I started flubbing every interaction and ended up dropping my first game to an up B out of shield. After Game 2, I could feel the nerves creep up on me as I was mashing disadvantage a good amount, but then I quickly regained footing after edge guarding a high recovery attempt from Boom. And after this breath-holding interaction where I very nearly got gimped at 50, I landed another kill off stage. And then from there, I just played decently through the rest of the game to secure Game 3. GG's to Boom. My round 5 was versus Louie, who went Violet. The game was pretty back and forth, each getting a little bit of damage until they broke my shield, causing me to fall way behind. Luckily, I quickly answered back with a shield break of my own. Despite my percent disadvantage, I managed to pull ahead with an edge guard. And though the rest of the game didn't go perfect by any means, it went well enough to secure Game 1, which was definitely not a misinput back air. I started off Game 2 by schmoving. I was actually playing pretty well until I got surprised by a forward air off stage. It seems they learned the lesson on Ness up smash though, but it barely mattered as they died to a back air right after. And my good momentum only continued from there, but that momentum did get to my head a little. But then it in a super duper cool way. Like a spike, bam! Or not, I guess I would just grab you, forward throw you, and then kill myself, and then I'm dead. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot! Oh, I threw so bad! For Game 3, let's just stay calm, level-headed, and humble. And take this one step. Oh, never mind. I'm awesome at this game. That was a clean game. GG's to Louie. So, with pools now over, let's see how everyone did and who made it into gold and who is gonna get banished. As for me, I ended up making it out as the highest ranking player not only in my pool, but in the whole bracket. Yeah, take that other 60% win rate person. I'm gonna win. Wait, what do you mean they didn't even make it into gold? My whole plan is ruined. Now I'm gonna have to crawl in a hole and eat pine cones. I guess we just go to the main bracket now. My first round in main bracket was versus Lages. Unsurprisingly, an Aegis player. And I really don't like this matchup. And plus, I didn't play it well. Despite that, I drew first blood, catching the recovery with a yo-yo. However, I quickly fell very far behind, and though it was a decent attempt at a comeback, the disadvantage was too great to overcome and I dropped Game 1. Honestly, not gonna draw this one out. Game 2 is very heavily in my favor the entire game. I was punishing them and winning more interactions than not. So it was a swift game. Game 3 is where I felt I might have had something going for me. Even though the matchup was still tiring, I felt I had finally found my footing and even gotten a big combo to take stock too. Things started to go down, however, when I ended up dying to a pyroforwarder at disgusting percents. It ended up coming down to an excruciating last hit situation, but in the end, I lost. Now, since this was main bracket where everything was best of 5, it wasn't technically the end of the set, but mentally, it kind of was. I just didn't want to fight Aegis anymore, and while this game didn't go all bad, it ended up in a loss. Wait, I lost? But the title says I win. Well, it's not over yet. Even if it feels like it's over, because I played that set so poorly. That just means I have to adapt and play better in the next set. At least if I want to win the whole thing. Also, if I fight that Aegis player again, it's immediate hands. After that was Losers Round 1 versus Absolutely Nothing, a DK player. The start of this game was a toss-up until I got donated the first stock. From there, I leveraged that momentum to get a second stock completely unanswered. However, I soon ran into an issue. Cargo throw. I had already been straining my hands for playing for this many hours, and it was physically hurting to mash out of cargo. So more often than not, I would just get carried into the blast zone and die. Though in game 1, it barely mattered, as any attempt at a comeback was thwarted and I took game 1. Game 2 is more the same scuffed back and forth until I got hit by the previously mentioned issue in cargo throw and fell behind. But not for too long, as I took the stock immediately after. And stock 2 started looking similar to the first, with a similar end to me. Though this time it wasn't so swift to bring it back, as this ended up being one of the longest ends to a stock I've ever seen. No matter what, they wouldn't die. I eventually found the stock after several painful minutes. Last stock was very good for me, however, as I was holding advantage for an extremely long time, and it resulted in me taking game 2. First stock of game 3 was going very smooth in my favor. Though it ended up getting a little close near the end, I drew first blood and took stock 1. However, I flew too close to the sun going for something very funny, causing me to SD and evening out the game. From there, we traded stocks back and forth until we were in a last hit situation in which I got cargo thrown and died again. That move really is a problem, isn't it? Game 4 started off pretty poorly as I almost died to a ding-dong, but managed to hold on, though died right after. The game is honestly looking pretty bad, but with good adaptation and not giving up, I fought back to bring it to an even game. From continuously racking up damage and advantage, I took stock 1 with a back throw, pulling back into it, racking up loads of damage before immediately dying to a cargo throw again. Jeez. Though, with all the percent I did, it wasn't long before we found ourselves in a last stock situation, and I did not get grabbed, thankfully, and closed out the set with a confirm. GG's to absolutely nothing. Losers Round 2 is versus Louis again, this time going Joker. I started the set off by taking massive amounts of damage and ended up dropping stock first. Though I had been doing a good job at not falling out of losing games, and instantly evened the game. I ended up playing more patient, shielding all of their landings, which got me the stock first. Though they did catch me with a good air dodge read to make it a last stock situation, in which, unfortunately, I would get gimped and drop game 1. Game 2, I realized I had to lock in and stop autopiloting through games if I wanted to win. As in stream at that point, I hadn't been talking for over 20 minutes. Despite my previous setbacks, I found myself up 3 stocks to 1 and holding on to my first stock for an insane amount of time, living to nearly 200% before finally going down. However, their momentum pulled back into it in full force on my second stock and even managing to take it to a last stock game. Though not much longer after that, they died to an up smash and I won game 2. Game 3 had the most even start, though I was trapping them in the corner for a lot of damage and ended up taking stock first. I lived to an insane percent yet again on my first stock, living to nearly 200 before finally dying. That survivability allowed me to take stock 2 and be nearly a full stock ahead for the game. I then proceeded to rack up loads of damage on their last stock, pushing them to the end of their last stock, before soon after taking the stock and then taking the game. I started off game 4 in the blender to take a good chunk of damage, but upon getting out of the blender, I answered back with movement into taking the first stock. My survivability came in clutch yet again, allowing me to get a lot of extra credit before dying on stock 1. However, an SD on my second stock caused me to be down by a little. However, not for too long as I answered back immediately. Now in a last stock situation, I respond by completely beefing a simple combo, though it didn't matter in the end as I take the set. GG's to Louie. Next up was Losers Quarterfinals versus Surge, who went PT. And though I was back to missing my edge guards, I was still doing very well and took the first stock. And despite messing up yet another combo, okay, don't judge me, it was late, I still racked up loads of damage before finally going down. Though my lead shrunk a bit, I still took stock 2 first, leaving them on their last stock, in which I would push too hard for a combo and also fall down to my last stock. But a nice catch and them being Squirtle allowed me to kill them super early to take game 1. Game 2, I had a huge lead and was feeling super comfortable and confident in this matchup, and it was showing as I dismantled their first stock. And I ended up living forever on my first stock before finally going down to a down throw of all things. Though that didn't stop my momentum as I soon took their stock 2 at a low percent myself. Before honestly kinda getting cooked on my second stock, bringing it to a last stock situation, but another yo-yo will do the trick as I take game 2. Game 3 had a similar start to game 2, with me hitting most of my things and hitting harder than them most of the time. Though a near death from an up air to not realizing I had lost my jump caused me to drop my stock first. Though they also couldn't recover soon after, making it more or less even. And though I did nearly die to a down air, I went high as a read that worked perfectly, quickly wrapping up their second stock from there. And them now on their tournament stock, they fought tooth and nail with it to get my stock. But I answered right back off the respawn plat, and then they buffered an unfortunate air dodge for me to take the set. GG's to Surge. Next up was Loser Semifinals versus Bunny Bun, the Steve player. Game 1 was very much a back and forth, each of us getting loads of damage before I took stock 1 with a roll read. I then quickly lost my first stock because they have DK cargo throw as a projectile. The next stock was more back and forth, with each one of us getting a lot of damage off of a combo, though, despite me messing up my first yo-yo, I would get a second chance and hit my second twofer, and to take stock 2. But, whoa, here comes the cargo throw projectile again, making it a last stock, in which the same thing would happen. But I mash out this time, living it, and I take game 1. It's the gate in game 2. I start off with a huge lead and almost killed them, coming just short of it. But I only took a little more damage before taking the first stop. From there, I would not relent, and follow up with a second yo-yo. Geez, that really is a strong tool in this matchup. But they have strong moves of their own and answered right back. And then they would show off some more strong moves before squashing my second stock. Their momentum was at an all-time high and almost managed to reverse 3-stock me, but this jank trade won me game 2. Game 3 is when they started using a lot more of the block walls, which I was having a very hard time playing around and giving them loads of resources. When I managed to get over them, I did end up taking stock 1, and after hitting a pretty fun combo and breaking through their walls again, I found myself up 3 stocks to 1. However, after I failed to breach their walls and ended up dropping my first stock, they pulled back their momentum just like last game to bring it to another potential reverse 3-stock. They held onto this last stock for what felt like ages. The wall was scarier than ever, but with one final breach of the wall, I would take the set. GG's to Bunny Bun. Losers Finals is when I finally get my run back versus Lages. Huh? Where's the music? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Now what? My whole video was ruined again. Well, I'm in too deep now, and you've gotta be kidding me.